Hello there, my name is Jill Renee Feeler, and let's just do a quick podcast here. I'm not sure how much time I have, it's a busy day, but I just wanted to share a couple foundational ideas that I do offer to my clients and my audience. One is that when many individuals are looking to pursue enlightenment, transcendence, spiritual connection, they have this idea that there's a set pathway to do that. And a common pathway that I see is that people get readings, and then they start doing readings. They get certified in something like Reiki. They read a lot of books. They study intently. They start to delineate between those that are on their path and those that are not on their path. They start to filter their lives and their activities into what is deemed spiritual and what is not deemed spiritual. I don't have data, but I sense that there's a high divorce rate in couples where there was some history there and some a marriage or some sort of commitment. And then because one is on their spiritual path and one isn't, then it's like, well, I can't be with you anymore. You're not doing your work, that sort of thing. And then there's a breakup. That's a common thing I see. Some individuals are making decent money, or at least they have some sort of career path, maybe even advanced training as a nurse or something like that. And their career is deemed not spiritual enough, so they leave their careers. So then by the time some of these types of individuals that have followed that path, they find me, and I'm guiding them and instructing them and advising them in a totally different way in terms of what it means to be enlightened, what it means to live a transcendent life, is independent of whether your loved ones or your partner is doing their work or not, right? My husband and I have been married since 1993. I didn't recognize my abilities and start doing my spiritual service work until 2010, 2011. So we had a long history of being together. And he doesn't meditate. He doesn't even read the books that I've authored. And I don't listen to the interviews that he does in his work. So we have a connection that is transcendent of what I'm doing for a living and what he's doing for a living. And we're not force-fitting those interests and passions to each other. Anyway, so I could talk more about that if you're interested in the comments or something about some pivotal moments of when I realized, well, I'll just tell it here because it's actually a really good story. I remember when I was first doing readings and I was all excited about, oh my gosh, like I'm actually a psychic intuitive. I didn't even know I had this ability. And I realized I had it from taking one class. And I'm like, oh wait, like feels like I've been doing this my whole life. That's kind of crazy. And I came home one night, he was already asleep. And I remember laying there in bed just thinking, wow, this is so sad that he isn't like excited about what I'm doing. He's not like, how did your readings go, Jill? He's just not, he doesn't show interest in this whole new thing that I'm super excited about. And I felt the level of myself, which is it's a layer of consciousness within you that is beyond your brain, that is in your energy field, but it's a voice of wisdom and love and insight that you wouldn't otherwise have. It's an ultrasensory awareness system. I've decided to call it my team because it does feel like a amazingly wise council of team, but it's coming from in me. It's not above me in the clouds. It's not, my perception is it's just another layer of me that knows a lot more than my human version of Jill, just the 5 human senses of my Jill. So I'm laying there kind of feeling a pity party coming on, and I felt that layer of me point out. Again, it's just thoughts, right? It's not like, it's just thoughts in me that are different than my normal Jill, indicating like, well, his favorite football team had a game last week. I mean, like, weren't they in the playoffs? How did they go? How did that go? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, I get it, right? So then that layer within me was basically indicating that I could make as big a deal out of his lack of interest in my newfound abilities and, if you will, rediscovered or remembered abilities and passions and new passions and interests about helping people in a totally different way than I did as my MBA in a corporate as a strategic planner. I could make as big of a deal out of that as I wanted to, but I also didn't have to, because he had interests and passions that were different than mine. I wasn't asking him about how the Dallas Cowboys were doing, and he wasn't asking me about how my readings went. So that doesn't have to be the end of an amazing, successful, union that he and I have in this reality together, right? It's huge. Anyway, so I love to support individuals in rethinking some of it's not self-sabotaging, but it's just repressed ideas of, oh yes, I've decided this relationship will never work. Oh yes, I've decided that I can never be a lawyer again. I have to leave my job as a nurse. I have to leave my job as this. I can't be a teacher anymore. It's not what I'm here for soulfully. And I'm just like, wait a minute. So the different perspective I offer frees people. It's truly a liberated it's a liberated system of belief in source energy and in your intrinsic connection to source energy. That source, God, creator, Holy Spirit is not what you connect to. It's what you're a part of, no matter what you're doing or not doing, no matter what you know or don't know, no matter what you believe or don't believe, right? It's a fundamental structure of life. So in what I realized as I got into this whole industry from a very different perspective is there are so many people in the health and wellness space and in the consciousness and enlightenment space, spirituality space that have made their spirituality or their wellness, they've made it their job, they've made it their life. And that doesn't always pay as well as maybe the careers that they left or the jobs that they're leaving behind. So I'm just going to be super honest here. I find it disturbing when I'm working with a client and I'm like, well, how did you get out of nursing 10 years ago anyway? Oh, I was told I needed to. By whom? Oh, well, I was working with, a guru or a guide, or it came through in a reading that I did not incarnate on this planet to be, a service manager in the telecommunications industry. So I knew I had to leave that job. And I'm just like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not feeling that from your soulful layers that you needed to leave that job at all. So, how is it going financially? How are you supporting yourself? I mean, this reality doesn't pay you for being soulful. So how is that going? And sometimes the clients are revisiting some of their choices in terms of career and relationships and connection with individuals that maybe aren't as spiritual as they are. So there are many reasons why I love the approach that we take, and truly the soulful operating system that I offer through my private session work and through my courses, and I guess in some ways even through the books. Even though the books haven't been a major passion of mine, I'd rather just teach a class or share a podcast or whatever. There is a completely different way of accessing soulfulness where you don't have to give up your life. You don't have to begin feeling condescending thoughts towards those that are not on their spiritual path. Those that are on their spiritual path, they're not closer to source energy. They're just more dedicated to it. Okay? Oh, I know, just feel that. Yeah. There's a lot of different expectations that are offered in the philosophies that I'm delivering and offering and supporting. And the reason I've created different philosophies and different spiritual theories, the reason I've created different spiritual theories is because I disagree with the other spiritual theories so intensely and so soulfully, because I see these outcomes of disrupted lives and dubious benefits of a hell of a lot of work, sometimes done pursued over decades at great expense. That's not necessary. No one needs to go through those steps. But there's been this entire industry built, especially since the 1960s, that, oh yeah, now I read this, now I do that, now I quit this job, now I become poor. That doesn't always happen, but it can. Now I start a spiritual business, now I've got it, and it's just, it looks suspiciously similar. And yet we are all individuals. We are all creator energy with our own strengths and abilities. It's ridiculous to me that everybody that's on their spiritual path has this idea, I think, planted as a seed from some of these alternative spiritual teachers and spiritual teachings, that everyone is meant to be this practitioner of spiritual gifts or abilities or services or something like that. It's a lot of work to have your own business. Oh my God, my MBA didn't train me for the level of entrepreneur kind of just effort that was required. I don't have an IT team. I don't have a marketing genius wizard like I had at Hewlett Packard. I don't have, there's just a lot that I have to figure out on my own. Now that was a conscious choice that I made, but I didn't leave my corporate job because I wanted to save the world. I left my corporate job because financially my husband and I had a I think he was getting promoted or something like that, and we both kind of looked at the numbers because we're both numbers people, and was like, okay, I think, like, Jill, do you want to stay home now? You could, right? We could try it and see how it worked. That's why I quit my job. It isn't because some soulful, fantasy-based kind of idea of, why is that? Why? Oh, this one I have in. I'm like, why is one of my hands in my little thingies and one isn't? There we go. Now I match. Anyway, so it wasn't some, fantasy-based, I'll attract the money with, my positive intentions. That business doesn't work that way. So in terms of coaching and things like that, for those of you that are trying to make a business work, let me know if you want some really maybe different, possibly contrary views of advice and guidance, soulful advice. And I don't hold back. Your life and your time here is too precious to waste on something that doesn't look like it's going to work, right? So I know there's a lot of coaching and coaches and ideology out there of, well, if you dream it, you can live it. That's not reality, and it's not this reality. That doesn't work. And I wish it worked. I'm not trying to be mean, but I am intending always to be honest and authentic and loving. But some individuals don't want the truth. They want to be told what they want to hear. And then I'm not your person, okay? Now, is my work for those that have already done a lot of spiritual work? No, it's not only for them. I have amazing clients that are not into spirituality necessarily. They don't take spiritual classes. They haven't read, they don't have a library of spiritual books. By the way, neither do I, because I disagree with, sorry, my dog is dreaming and he's banging the closet door. Sam, you okay, bud? Oh my God, he's so cute. Anyway, so I have a nice portion, of clients that are maybe more like my background, that I realized my gifts, but I wasn't chasing spirituality. I definitely was not a spiritual seeker. I think I've read in total like 4 or 5 spiritual books. So I definitely can help individuals with a wide variety of things, whether it's helping your relationships with loved ones. I love to help individuals feel literally their own soulful layers, their own personal transcendence, and recognize that those layers are there. I love to help individuals have a different insight on why some relationships are so prickly and why there's so much friction, whether it is a parent or a child or a sibling or a loved one, even, just friend relationships. Like, why is this relationship so hard? And again, I do all of that intuitively. So I'm not hearing you describe it first. I'm basically intuiting, especially if I just have their name. Okay, yeah, I see the friction you're talking about with you and Jennifer. What I'm getting is this. And my clients are like, especially I think those that are not into like the spirituality and consciousness world, they're floored at what comes through and how I can know what I know. And of course, I don't necessarily have an answer to that other than this is how the Holy Spirit, if you have a Christian ideology and Christian believer, a believer in Christ as a savior, right? Or whether somebody is just, they haven't experienced somebody with the sixth sense before. It's pretty, I know it knocked my socks off. I was like, I didn't even know this was possible for the first, 39 years of my life. So yeah, I get the wow, but it isn't about wowing someone. It's about helping someone with amazing results that can happen incredibly quickly with someone like me that is a pioneer in soulful consciousness and not following these really rigid, suppressive approaches to spirituality and enlightenment that I think are just sad, because it doesn't deliver what it says it will, and it doesn't end. It's just okay, now you got to work on this, and it's just the whole philosophy of it is just flawed and incredibly flawed. And I do wish more people understood that, because it isn't that they're missing something it isn't that they're doing it wrong. It's that it's wrong. It's that it doesn't work. And I just want people to have what works, because this reality is already hard enough. Let's not make it harder with a flawed theory about what this reality is and what we're doing here. So my analytical mind comes in handy really, really well when it comes to spiritual theory, offering me a completely fresh perspective with my intuitive about what actually is going on here, why we picked our parents, whether that was like oops, let's not do that again, why we incarnate, the truth. Well, I can't prove it, so it is a spiritual theory. My spiritual theory is that none of us had to incarnate. Like, no one had to incarnate. Not you, not me, not anyone. And there's two different levels of incarnating. Do you know what they are? Probably not, right? That's pretty wild. Every individual that I see in the world that has parents that either were not equipped to lovingly raise a child, I can tell what level they incarnated at, because it's apparent they did not consciously choose their parents. And it shows, in multiple ways in their lives. And it's sad. It's really sad. I've actually, over the last year, the more that I've developed the theories, realized that a huge portion of the world's problems right now are based on what I call this level 2 incarnation, that is just completely misunderstood and misrepresented. It's confusing. There's bad decisions made about incarnation, and it shows up here. I know. Yeah. So I'm trying. I'm trying to do my part in it, to help all of us be a better version of ourselves, that we are accessing more of our transcendence. We are being more clear and aware of what's really going on, who and what we really are, what we're capable of, and creating a version of ourselves that we like best and that represents us in a way that we enjoy more in the world, that we're proud in a way, not that the goal is pride, but we have something, we're making a version of ourselves that we're glad we were here. We're making a version of ourselves that we're glad we incarnated at all, right? That to me is a very purposeful and satisfying approach to consciousness, enlightenment, and transcendence, and it may have nothing to do with spirituality. Okay. All right. So that was an interesting little podcast here. I wasn't sure where we were going to go. I didn't have notes. I just knew I wanted to share and reach out, and it's a hard time for a lot of people. I'm definitely hearing from a lot of individuals that are either dedicated to their spirituality and trying to make sense of the world. And again, those theories are so broken, they're not explaining the world, but they're trying to, but badly. And I'm hearing from individuals in my client base that are, again, not into the spirituality, but just like, I feel like I want to check in and get clear about it, am I missing something here? Is this not working for a reason that I'm missing? Or, what do you see, Jill? And I love to help with that. Okay. So again, my name is Jill Renee Feeler. You can just search on the internet and you'll probably come up with a lot. I've been creating for over a decade now, and there's a lot there. There's coaching programs that are more individualized assistance in your living, your transcendent layers, and your, let's say, creating a more soulful version of you in the process. And that you'd be surprised how quickly amazing results can be apparent to you and to the people that you care about and love or support in industry and business, etc. There are individual private sessions that are available as well. There is a membership for those that want to literally get regular support in a transcendent, very unique, pioneering version of consciousness but I'm going to warn you guys again, for those of you that are in the spirituality kind of world already, we contradict stuff all the time. And it can be really like, wait, I thought, our thoughts did create our reality. What is she saying? So no, I'm not another spiritual teacher that's going to validate some of the flawed theories, because to me they are flawed. And why would I want to perpetuate that? Because I don't think it works. I think it causes more problems than it needs to. And there's a whole different way to feel soulful, connected, and transcendent in your life. And that's what I created, and that's what I offer. There's so many people that they think they've got it all figured out, and then I'm offering an undo to a lot of the things they've been trying for decades. And I've seen from so many of my audience, they're like this, like, I'm so glad I found you. You saved me another 5 to 15, or maybe even you saved me for the rest of my life, following these flawed ideas that were suppressing my connection to source energy versus liberating it, right? I'm not going to tell you what you need to eat and don't eat. Oh God, I could go on and on about just the ridiculous ideas from my perception and my experience that are just ridiculous caricatures of what spirituality means. It's so sad, annoying, in a way hilarious, and ridiculous. It's literally ridiculous. The idea that like eating meat makes you less available to your light-based energy frequencies is just so... that was just a theory that somebody came up with. There's a whole world that treated it as fact, and it's just like, that's so silly that what you eat is going to block your connection to source energy. Whether you get vaccinated for COVID is going to affect your connection to source energy. Whether you're in a job that pays well that isn't spiritual is going to affect your connection to source energy. And it goes on and on. The rules that they're following in that mindset are just so limiting. Yeah, no wonder so many people in that framework feel so stuck. So anyway, I love to help people get unstuck from a whole bunch of different situations and thinking in their life. Okay, so anyway, my website is jillreneefeeler.com. I'm active on Facebook and Instagram, posting regularly there. There's a newsletter, obviously, that you can sign up for on my website to keep apprised of new things that are happening. I love to create travel events. We're going to Egypt March 30th through April 13th, 2022. That'll be my third time going there. Epic. And I only do small group travel, the maximum 25 people. So it's not an army of tourists, invading the sites. We have as you can imagine from what I've already told you, it's a very unique experience traveling with me. And it's worth it. It's a very special experience, and I love to share the way that I experience these sites with others that are open to it, that are maybe similarly gifted. In those ways, we have an amazing time together, and it's a very well-planned trip. I love details. So anyway, I guess that's it. Check out more on the website, jillreneefeeler.com, and bye-bye for now. I hope you're doing okay. If you need support, you know where to find me. Okay, bye-bye.